And whenever you're ready, what we can do, if you don't want to pursue more questions, we can show a film that I produced that shows why this sacred geometry is absolutely everywhere and how important it is and where it connects to us on a cellular level. And that's how I picked it. That's why I knew it was the blueprint that I was looking for. So we can do that.
Yeah,
Spread out from there if you like.
let's do that, because the longer you talk, my questions are going to continue to pile up, and I'm going to get them all
Exactly.
answered. Might take me a couple
Yeah.
of shows, but we're going to get them answered.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. You know, the Merkaba obviously is an apparent geometrical figure in the universe, and I'm curious if that's what we're going to be talking about. But folks, again, there's one point I want to make, and it seems like my number one topic in the world today is my pushback on religion. Because religion, in my opinion, and I'm a born again Christian, and my life I model as best I can, as Christ's life was. I can never get anywhere near, or I'm not anywhere near, that place. But it's always what I strive or aspire to. More of my John the Baptist style with my profanity that people don't always like in a religious world, but religion has been manipulated and maneuvered so much to take us away from the truth of what's right and real and righteous, i.e., natural healing does come from quantum frequencies. Number one, you can get these frequencies from magnets and crystals. If you talk about crystals, anybody on the religious right will throw New Age at you. That's all New Age BS. I'm like, yeah, New Age. No, your whole mindset is New Age. That's old age from before they captured, the whole system and crafted us into this religious architecture on the planet that's held back human ascension in the angelic form for thousands of years. And if I say people, if they want to argue about them, say, okay, look around you. You tell me how much have we escaped that satanic draw for 2,000 years? Why don't you ask the kids that are being trafficked in these underground tunnels and tortured? Ask them how it's working. Obviously, Christ wasn't wrong. He wasn't a bullshitter. Somebody is withholding valuable information on the truth of his life. And that's where I usually push up against it to smash it so we can break out. People don't need to worry about what dogma or, what's programmed in their brain. Connect directly with the quantum realm, connect directly with source, creator, God, whatever. Your answers will come. You don't have to sit there and take it from another human. You got to learn how to connect with your own creator, your own source, and meditate. These answers will come to your gut. You'll know it by feel, not by logic or knowledge or what your programming is, but you can't allow it to happen if there's interference. So when you talk crystals and people do this, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly where we're going, because these things are on the planet, a creation of our creator for a specific reason. Nothing was wasted in the creation of this planet. It's all serving not just the physical attributes of life on earth, but the spiritual as well. There's no mistakes. God didn't make any mistakes. So anyways, let's jump into this video, and I'll pontificate further, I'm sure, on that when we get moving.
Oh, yeah. You'll like this. You'll like this.
But to truly understand the principles of this technology, we need to first examine where we come from, where we are now, and where we are going. Our ancient ancestors possessed a profound knowledge that we are only coming to understand today. Throughout human history, in every time period, in every culture, in every major religion, one geometric shape has continuously been present throughout the ages: the star tetrahedron. This perfectly aligned six-pointed star has been discovered in almost every religious culture in human history. It's been found in the architecture and decor of ancient Christian churches, Jewish synagogues, and Islamic mosques. It has also been found in ancient civilizations and cultures throughout Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas. However, with all its references in ancient texts and artwork, the star tetrahedron was not often used as an exclusive symbol to represent any one religion or culture. Historically, the star tetrahedron was regarded more as a divine diagram with the potential to connect us to a higher power. A broader example of the star tetrahedron can be found in another symbol revered by the ancients: the flower of life. The star tetrahedron's six-pointed geometric shape is very prominent within the flower of life pattern, where its shape multiplies infinitely within it. These shapes were revered by the ancients as the symbols of the creation of energy and frequency, the blueprint of all matter. But in reality, these ancient symbols are actually two-dimensional representations of a three-dimensional object, the atom. The atom is one of the most important scientific discoveries in quantum physics. It is regarded by science as the building block of all physical matter, energy, and frequency. The atom contains a nucleus, which is made up of protons and neutrons. Electrons, through electromagnetic force, orbit the nucleus. This combination of geometry, magnetism, and motion creates frequency. Everything that exists in the universe, from solid objects to living organisms, contains this exact atomic material. The core denominator that makes one object different from another object is frequency. Frequency is the catalytic force that dictates the design of all the structures of matter in the universe. The atomic symbol is an exact representation of these principles, and so was the star tetrahedron in ancient times. In fact, looking a little closer around the nucleus of the atomic symbol, we see a familiar shape, the star tetrahedron. This is no coincidence. And it's no coincidence that the star tetrahedron's geometric pattern aligns perfectly with the electromagnetic structure of the atom. The ancients knew what science has only discovered within the last 100 years, that everything that exists in the universe, including all of us, is merely a combination of energy, frequency, and vibration, and that we are all intrinsically connected by it. The star tetrahedron and the flower of life are the geometric blueprints of this profound architecture. Today, the star tetrahedron and the flower of life pattern can actually be seen on a microscopic level through mitosis, the process of cell division and the creation of life. Humans begin as a single cell. That cell then multiplies into two cells, and these two cells then multiply into four cells, in a multiplication pattern that continues trillions of times over until we are formed. When observed through a microscope, we can see that this growth pattern is literally mirrored by the pattern of the star tetrahedron and the flower of life symbols, giving us further evidence that these geometric patterns represent the creative power of all matter. Furthermore, within each one of us, there are over 100 trillion cells, and within each cell, there are over 100 trillion atoms, all releasing powerful quantum energy. The astronomical amount of atoms in the body, all simultaneously releasing these quantum frequencies throughout every cell, creates a massive accumulated frequency that surrounds and flows throughout the body. This vibrational force is known universally as the torus field, and it surrounds everything in nature, as well as our entire planet. The Earth's torus field can actually be observed in the aurora borealis. The torus energy within our bodies is designed to symphonize with nature and the Earth's torus field. Frequency connects us to nature and the Earth in ways we could never have imagined. Our torus field is responsible for maintaining our health from a cellular level. 10 to 20 billion cells die every day, and an equal amount of cells are replaced by the body. The difference between people who rebuild healthy cells versus unhealthy cells is determined by what we are exposed to within our environment. If we are exposed to the harmonious energy fields of the Earth and nature, our bodies will continuously rebuild healthy cells. But if we are exposed to unnatural, non-harmonious frequencies, our bodies will rebuild unhealthy cells. Harmonious frequencies are the keystones of our health and well-being, and the electromagnetic force of the star tetrahedron and the flower of life pattern creates these harmonious frequencies that we now know are essential for life.
So I assume that was the end of that video. We didn't have a freeze there, did we, Brent?
That's the end of it. Yeah. For
Okay.
that, there was some other principles of other things, but they didn't pertain to what that was.
Okay, well, what I'd say before we continue the discussion, this picture has just emerged to me very clearly. The question is, we kind of lost this information, this knowledge on the flower of life, the tetrahedron, over the last 100 years. The question people need to ask is why? there's a reason for it. There's somebody erased this out of our knowledge base of existence for obvious reasons to me. And the second thing is, look how they piled us. And Jefferson warned about this. He did not want to see America where people are piling on top of each other in the cities, just like the cesspools of Europe. There's a reason why they're driving us into cities on the planet. You think about this massive planet, this big around, and you take a microscopic pinhead, smaller than a real pin, a needlehead, touch that spot on this sphere, and that's the entire area, surface area of the planet where you have human life. Now, that doesn't make sense. God created this massive sphere for us to experience life on, but we're driven into the size. Basically, the entire planet, all humans can live. They say that we're overcrowding. All humans on Earth, roughly 8 billion people, could live in the state of Texas and survive. It's all a lie, overpopulation. And so here we have this massive planet, which we have no access to. Why are they driving us into these concrete jungles, I call them? They call cities, because they want to eliminate our connection to the planet, to Mother Gaia, and disturb and disrupt that frequency. And everything else that they do is disrupting this frequency. That's why we don't live 800-900 years anymore, like Noah and the ancients did in biblical times. We should be. And the reason we should be here is because now, based on what we know from the real incursion into the human species, we're 300 years behind our spiritual ascension track right now today. And if you look at everywhere we have access to on the planet, where do they build any type of power lines or any type of cell towers? Only where you see highways, roads, and superhighways, the places you have access to on the planet. Anywhere in the outer regions, you've got nothing. So this is, in my opinion, a strategy to disconnect us from this sacred geometry and frequency in every way, because they want us continually to move through the cycle, die spiritual infants, so we can't continue to increase our and elevate our spiritual power, because then they would be unnecessary. Their grip and their hold would be wiped out on the planet. Anyways, just a side thought there.
Yeah, well, if just to back up what you just said, if you look at ancient buildings and designs compared to today, we live in a bunch of square boxes. Everything's a square box. There's no geometry in it. So when I did my research just based on that, I went right back to what's called the Platonic solids, the 5 pure shapes into what you need to do to get into this sacred geometry. And I built it right into the lab, and then blocked out all distraction, so nothing could get in there. No kinds of, we'll bring it up to show it, so there couldn't be any kind of cell tower or electrical, dirty electricity, radio waves, because that's what we're all subject to, is we're completely involved in distraction. And that's what it looked like. And the only reason it looks kind of like an igloo is I needed a portion to get in. It's really a geodesic sphere. It's not a dome, because if you look at it, all the geometry is in there. And then it mirrors it on the inside, so I can capture the frequency, block out. Now there is where the base of it, Scott, where I bring up the DC currency from the ley lines from the earth. So that all had to be established. And then I brought that straight into the building and then shut everything out. So when you went inside there, which we'll show you what that looks like, I then recreated the geometry. So I just wanted to freeze there for a second. You'll love this. Each point that you're seeing lit up there is an inverted crystal pyramid that points down. And then all the energy of light, fiber optics, is driven up through there. But if you actually, in your mind, if you take every one of those points and you go up 3 feet in the air and then go below it 3 feet, you're literally in an atom. You're literally in a quantum field atom. That's what you're looking at, only it's 2-dimensional. If you start to expand that, you're in the actual constructs that of every living and non-living thing has. We literally are all made of the same stuff. It's just how we bend the frequencies. So I went in there and did the testings, and what I could do in there was absolutely incredible. The manifestation was unbelievable. I could go in there with a focus when I was trying to figure out how to cut the magnets. I could change the chakra colors. This shows you what about the base of the crystal looked like. And then what I could do is I could refract it and bring the lighting through, and I'd get all kinds of results. So I had to build an environment. Yeah, and that shows a closer view of the crystal. This was something that I had no blueprint for, Scott. I had to do this all from instinctually thinking how this would work. And it took me, so I started that in 2009, and it took me till 2014, 15 to complete. Some of the lighting and sound. Are you familiar with the group Rush, the rock room Rush? It's called.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, Howard, who does all their lighting and sound and stuff, he came up and helped me with the sound construction for all of that.
No kidding.
It was.
How cool was that?
So I dropped out for 5 years of just spending money and research to figure this out. So I took the constructs of that movie that you saw and said, okay, there's the blueprint. When at a cellular level, say, all I got to do is repeat that blueprint, because we all look, whether it's you or a reptile or a rabbit or a plant, we all look at that same cell. We all start out that way. We all look like that, and then we go into our DNA. So I knew there it is. So that's what the cell responds to. If I can communicate frequency-wide to that cell, what happens? People go, so what does that mean? If you and I were exposed to radiation right now, you and I, we feel nothing. But 2 weeks from now, our cells go into cancer mode and we start to break down. This is the opposite. As we expose the cells to this frequency, they go up. They start to build the immune systems. And so that's why we can ward off everything. Like, why is someone? Because if your cells are below about 26% in an energetic level, it's cancer forming. The moment they're over 40, 45, there is no cancer, because it's simply a matter of dysfunction of the cell. And how do we know this? Right? The one cancer that never, ever exists or you never hear about, and even when they say it isn't, is heart cancer. There's no such thing as heart cancer. That's your highest electrical field. That's why.
Wow.
Because it's where the field is. So now, if we get the rest of your cells like that, right, you ward off what other people aren't getting. And that's what we did with the bees. So when we put it in the beehive, it's not that it's magic. The bees are just stronger, and they ward off the pesticides and the 5G. Just like we're exposed in our hive, your home right there is your hive. Well, that's their hive.
Mm-hmm.
So all I want to do is build up their immune systems with a simple puck, and they have to go over it and do all of that. I'm skipping ahead, but this is why it's so good for removing, for humans, inflammation. That's the number one pain causing is inflammations, and it also really helps with the cleaning of the food. So we sent it to food labs, and they took regular grocery store food, such as lettuce, raspberries, chicken, meat, and it had 15 different pathogens in it, such as E. coli, Listeria, and we exposed it to the cell for 5 minutes, and it was reducing it up to 40, 60, and 100%. What it was doing was neutralizing it. Just like sound canceling headphones, it would take a pathogen or a virus, which is just a frequency, and it was countering it, was neutralizing it, right? And that's the secret. The secret is once everybody knows that every disease, everything that exists is a frequency, well, wouldn't it make sense just to neutralize it or counter it? Because if you go another way, where all you're doing is appeasing, or you're like, it's like when you have a hangover from alcohol, you have a headache, but the headache is not what so when you take a painkiller, all it's doing is dealing with the symptom, not the cause. The cause is you're dehydrated. So as soon as you're not dehydrated, the headache goes away. But what you've done with the chemicals or drugs is all you've done is block it out. So, and then you cause other things. So we live in the world of expediency and, that kind of thing. And that's why we live in chemistry when we should be living in is in quantum physics. So we should be in physics, but we're in chemistry. And that's where we're moving towards. That's what this is. That's what's been taken away from us. We're in chemical as opposed to physics. So, and that's what I understood. And so I went into that, Scott, with dealing. And I had all kinds of people come, and I tested them in the building. I built it right on my own property. I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. And then what happened is we were getting all kinds of results. But I elected that I wasn't going to go in the medical field because I'm from a corporate background, and I knew the more success that I would have in the healing world, the more heat I would get. I would get lots of heat coming at me. So what I elected to do was, when I heard about the bees in 2015, I said, you know what, I'm going in there to see what I can do. Let's see what it does. And it turned out to be phenomenal. And then what happens is people will pick up, if it's doing it for the bees, it's going to do it for me too. But you don't have to get into that whole claim thing. People are discovering it on their own. And boy, are they discovering it with us as to what's happening. So I'll stop there, to let you pick up for the audience.